Greetings, ghosts and ghouls, and welcome to Bad Boo, a podcast conjured for the curious where we explore all things frights, flicks, and folklore.
We are your haunting hosts, Sam and Jodie, guiding you through every episode of occult exploration and holding your hand the whole way through.
So if you like the sounds of spooks, screams, and symphonies, keep listening as we unravel our mystic matter for this week.
In today's episode, we'll be unearthing the undead origins of zombies and the rotting histories behind them.
Yeah, I've been very excited for this episode for a little while. Now we've got zombies in the lineup. Obviously, we've been bringing out episodes every couple of weeks for the time being. That's only because of life circumstance.
Yeah.
But we are very much dedicated to bringing you the best quality frights, flicks, and folklore that we can on our podcast. Hence why we have delayed it, to ensure that we don't lessen the quality for you all.
Exactly. It's quality over quantity, folks.
Indeed.
And as we approach the end of season 1, I know, very upsetting.
I know,
very
I can't believe it.
But we will be back. So if anybody has any comments or suggestions or recommendations, make sure you leave them in the comments so that we can amend the next season to suit you guys even more.
So it's suited to basically what you guys like more and want to hear more of, I suppose. So
exactly. And just like we will be kind of resurrecting for our second season.
Yes, the second coming.
Let's get into the resurrectors themselves, zombies. What are zombies?
So I suppose in a modern, more practical sense, a zombie is basically a biological or a supernatural glitch. It can be seen as. So human form that's been stripped of its personality, agency, and higher cognitive functions, leaving behind only a shell sort of driven by a primal or external impulse, which often is brains or flesh or just
brains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jodie's great zombie impression there.
Plants vs Zombies impression for you as well.
There you go.
Yep.
So there are often more defined versions of zombies in contemporary culture and in science, because obviously they're very fantastical sort of creatures.
They are.
But yet they do represent a lot of important things about society.
Well, and there are different kind of, not necessarily people, but there are different creatures within the modern world that do kind of replicate zombie functions. So
They do.
Let's get into it. So the first one is the kind of biological definition of like the infected. And so this in modern media, this basically means that zombies are often explained as like victims of a pathogen. So if you guys have seen The Walking Dead or World War Z, it's usually a virus or a parasite or some type of fungus that like infiltrates the human brain, which is usually the part that's responsible for morals and logic, and completely shuts that down.
Indeed.
With it usually being like the frontal lobe as well, because that's where all of this lives. And it overstimulates the amygdala, which, if you haven't heard about the amygdala, get to know, because we spoke about it in the first episode when we learned about fear.
We did indeed.
But it's basically the like animal part of the brain which is responsible for rage and hunger and fear as well. So these particular ones with these like disrupted frontal lobes are usually defined by their like quote unquote viral nature. And this is because their only biological goal is to pass their key infection to another host. And that could be through the transmission of like a bite or fluid exchange. So if you guys have seen World War Z, and you know the bit when he stood on the top of the roof of the apartment blocks and he gets blood in his mouth, so he stands there for 10 seconds before he's about to jump because he thinks he might turn. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. If you get blood in your mouth from a zombie, you're going to catch like zombie STDs basically. So don't be doing that.
Yeah, we don't want that.
But along with that, this also means that because they do disrupt the brain, obviously the physical functions of the human are usually quite similar. So if somebody's still quite buff, they will retain that muscle for a little bit. If somebody's slimmer, they will retain that figure for a little bit. And so this means that it actually distinguishes between the functions of the nervous system. So there's like fast and aggressive zombies, and then there are the ones that are kind of slow and mindless because they're physically decaying.
Yeah.
And that's usually the difference between like the runner or the shambler.
Yeah.
Or just The walkers.
The walkers.
The walkers.
Together.
No, there's going to be a lot of Rick Grimes references through this
yes.
episode, so we hope you enjoy.
Yeah, that you often see the two sort of different zombie interpretations through different, like the two different zombies there, through different zombie films or media.
Yeah.
You don't often have like the walking ones and then the fast ones, but I know in some iterations of zombie films and games they start as like walking and then they get quicker
they evolve.
Yeah, indeed.
So then that leads us into the second type of zombie, which is kind of the let's just say it's like the hijacked biological version. And so this means that in the real world, so our world, zombification is actually a recognized state in several different animal species. So this is what we were saying a second ago. So this is usually through parasites like the Toxoplasma gondii or the jewel wasp, which actually take over the motor functions of a host. So this means that the host is still technically quote unquote alive, but it no longer makes its own decisions and it just becomes a parasite for the vehicle's life cycle.
I think it really is quite scary to sort of, it's one of the very few sort of monsters in like monster movies that are actually kind of real. And I think especially when like all the pandemic happened and everything, and it was such a fear that every time there's some sort of wild outbreak of a virus, it's like, will this be the one that turns us into zombies?
Well, because it happens, doesn't it? Because it's like, obviously there was pigs, and then there was swine flu.
Yeah.
Then there was like cows and mad cow disease.
Yeah.
I don't know if those two were directly related, but obviously the name
rabies can be seen as like a zombie.
Yeah,
type
rabies
thing
went
as well,
between the
'cause
two.
It makes animals go mental.
Then you obviously had COVID-19, which was supposedly coming from bats, and then it broke out into the wild. And so, who's to say? I don't know if anybody's seen the video of that snail that's like getting taken over by this zombie fungus, because that was actually from, I believe, a mushroom.
Yeah.
Or it had been attacked by another type of insect who carries this parasite.
I think it's a mushroom, and it gets inside the snail's
spores,
brain,
doesn't it?
Yeah, and then the eyes come out looking like worms, so then birds can come and feed on the snail's like face.
Yeah.
And then the bird gets the disease.
To entrap other animals, it like
so
changes
clever.
itself a little bit. Yeah.
So clever.
Which is exactly the kind of plot for The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Because
it's all
obviously,
fungus-based zombies.
It's like fungus and spores that then release into the human airways and all that type of stuff.
Such an amazing game.
But this is basically that type of theory.
Yeah.
So this means that biologically speaking, a like zombie state can be achieved through specific neurotoxins that induce a catatonia, which is essentially a state where a person is conscious but unable to move, speak, or react, and it effectively makes them like kind of appear like they're dead, but they still remain aware of everything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when people go in for surgery and they haven't been given enough anesthesia. This is like my worst nightmare, by the way. And they can hear everything, they can see everything, but they can't move.
Yeah.
And so they start feeling everything that's happening to them during surgery.
Yeah.
Oh,
I hate that.
I hate that
idea.
Worst fear. One of them. But that leads us swiftly onto the third type, which is the kind of more socio-economic metaphor that zombies stand for. In literature and film, so usually films like Dawn of the Dead, also The Walking Dead, any other basically like zombie type film that has the title of dead in it, usually represents that there's some type of zombie going on.
Indeed.
But in these films, a lot of the time, zombies represent the horde mentality. And this is basically where a single zombie is rarely a threat, but the horror comes from a huge mass of them, and they represent that fear of being overwhelmed by a group that cannot be reasoned with.
Yeah, there's that mass horde mentality of, power in numbers and strength in numbers, because while they're not particularly dangerous on their own.
No.
But with a large group, it's like,
Yeah, exactly. It starts to get a little bit scary when that happens.
It does, indeed.
But they are usually used as a metaphor for the like mindless consumption that kind of the modern world has, and that's because a creature that exists only to take and consume without ever feeling full or satisfied is quite like a terrifying idea.
You think
But
so
of
many
course-
of these like millionaires, billionaires,
It exists
they
in our
take
world
and
today
take
in
and
just a
take,
different context.
but they don't. You know, there's no end. There's no
There's
like,
no giving,
oh,
there's no reconciliation,
I'm
there's
full.
no human remorse.
It's all
there's
about
none of that.
consumerism. Everybody's the same. Everybody's like going through the same thing.
Mhm.
And the start of Shaun of the Dead, as an example, is very, very poignant because
It's a very brilliant sequence, the start of that film.
because all of the characters that then end up turning into zombies all look the exact same.
Yeah.
It's supposed to represent how mundane normal life is,
Mhm.
and that everyone is sort of essentially a zombie
Yeah.
in themselves. They don't enjoy their work because they're doing a job they hate. They're like antisocial. They're, you know, on their phones. Kind of like, you know, it's very timeless.
Yeah.
But it's like everybody's the same,
Mhm.
you know. And when they turn into a zombie, that's why Shaun doesn't click on for a while.
Yeah.
That everybody's turned into a zombie because
it's
everybody's the same.
pattern, yeah, that
Same
he's
patterns.
used to.
You know, so clever.
Yeah. And even with kind of things that are in the news right now and
Mhm.
this idea of like being overwhelmed with groups that cannot be reasoned with,
Yeah,
and a lot of the news that is coming out
yeah,
currently,
yeah.
that is a very prevalent fear
It is.
amongst people, because obviously these people can't be reasoned with. These people are covering things up.
Yeah.
They've done catastrophically disastrous things
Mm-hmm.
which aren't even humane,
No.
and they're managing to hide from the truth, but obviously that won't keep up for very long.
No.
But
'Cause it
that's
will
what
still
happens to
come
these
out.
hordes, is they're intimidating until Rick Grimes comes along and fucks them up.
We need to go and fuck them up together.
Together.
Together. What is that? Little Shane in there as well.
something, Rick.
There's going to be a lot of that today.
Then, finally, for the fourth interpretation, we have the visually and psychological kind of presence of a zombie, which is defined by being, quote-unquote, almost human. So this is usually the primary marker for a zombie is the eyes. The eyes, they never lie, Chico. Or is it the eyes, Chico, they never lie?
Something along those lines.
One of those quotes. I can't remember which one it is, but all of those film nerds out there, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But usually, with the eyes, if somebody has a preoccupied brain, perhaps by a zombie-like virus, you can see that they aren't present at all. They just look unoccupied.
Yeah.
And that's because the eyes are the window to the soul.
They are.
They are indeed.
When they turn into a zombie, their soul's gone.
Exactly. You don't have a soul anymore and can't be a person
I'm
then.
thinking about it, it's really interesting about that, the eyes.
Mhm.
That is like what makes someone look like a zombie.
Yeah.
Like in all of the zombie
They're just completely
iterations, the
gone.
eyes are
Mhm.
blank. They're just gone.
Yeah, and there's actually a lot of different folklores and tales that kind of associate with the changing of eye. So I don't know if you've ever heard about the black-eyed children.
No.
We'll have to look into that at some point. If you want to hear about that in an episode, then please
I'm
let us know
intrigued,
in the
so-
comments. They
yeah.
are basically children who show up at your door in the middle of the night.
Mm.
You're not supposed to let them in, but they will ask for help, and they have completely black eyes. But apart from that, they look like normal kids.
Wow.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, I like this idea.
And there's a lot of
Well, I don't like the idea of it,
encounters
but
with them.
I like
And
the idea of it for
sometimes
sure.
they are demons, sometimes they murder people, you never know.
Blimey.
Anyway, going back to this though, we're talking
Yeah,
about
we
this
need to do
type
that.
of undead murdering today
Mm.
instead of those ones. Usually, they exhibit ataxia, which is basically a lack of muscle coordination. So this leads to the iconic dragging or jerky, unnatural movements that zombies carry themselves with.
So like motor sort of functions in their body are just screwed,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah,
So
and that's
they
why.
they can't control what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where it gets this kind of like uncanny valley, like.
Because they're
Presence
so
from.
nearly us,
Yeah.
but not quite.
Exactly. Like, you know that something's wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
Yeah.
It's like when, in Shaun of the Dead,
Mm.
when his flatmate is in the shower,
Yeah.
isn't that when he pulls back the curtain and he starts attacking him?
Yeah.
Or is it after he gets out of the shower?
Because he turns the mirror and he sees him behind him, but
Yeah.
he still doesn't notice. That
Yeah, because he just thinks that he's in the shower because it's like
Because he
still a
turned into a
person.
zombie when he was in the shower.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. But
I was meant to say exactly, but that wasn't to the right bit of the sentence. But exactly. Carrying on.
carrying on, going back to the origins.
Yes.
As we do in every episode, we have to go all the way back to sort of understand where this strange concept actually came from, because everything has an origin.
Yes.
So the origins of the zombie are sort of far more grounded in real world trauma and history than most people actually realise, as we spoke about just now. And while we now think about these sort of flesh-eating monsters as sort of, what we see in the media, they actually began as a symbol of slavery, funnily enough. So there were 4 kind of iterations of the origins, I suppose, of a zombie. The first one being like the etymology, like the god spirit, if you like. The word likely originates from West African languages, so specifically Kikongo and Kimbundu, brought to the Caribbean during a transatlantic slave trade. So the first one being Zambi, with an N, silent N at the start, meaning god or spirit of a dead person, and then Zumbi, meaning fetish or amulet. So in these African roots, the concept wasn't actually terrifying, it was more spiritual. And it was only when these beliefs mixed with the brutal reality of sort of plantation life in Haiti that the zombie became a figure of horror. So, yeah, it sort of changed. It was originally a more spiritual, more innocent belief, I suppose, which is pretty interesting.
It is definitely very interesting. And it's also really interesting to know that this is finally kind of like a folklore or like a horror concept that is solidified in real life as opposed to coming from literature.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them were before.
Yeah, it's like a real life sort of, stem.
Yeah, exactly. Then we have the Haitian voodoo. I was going to say voodoo, but it's not voodoo, it's vaudou, which is the slave forever. So in Haitian folklore, a zombie is basically a dead person reanimated by a boko, or a sorcerer. So crucially, it means that a Haitian zombie does not eat people. They are mindless, soulless automatons forced to work as slaves on plantations, which is obviously really sad. And then this meant that for enslaved people in Haiti, the ultimate fear wasn't being killed, it was becoming zombified. And so they believed that death was the only way for their souls to return to Africa or Guinea, and that if they were to be turned into a zombie, it was to be denied even that freedom of death and just to be forced into eternal labour.
That is pretty sad.
It's really, folklore, really actually, sad.
That version, that iteration, I suppose. And then came the colonial distortion of this. So Western culture, of course, as they always do,
quote unquote,
discovered the zombie during the US occupation of Haiti in 1915 to 1934.
Very big on the discovered, because obviously in these really harrowing periods, there's not a lot of discovering going on, more like human torture techniques.
Yes.
Or experiments that are happening on these poor people. Yeah.
Which this was during sort of the First World War era and just after, where American soldiers and writers returned with sensationalized stories of voodoo and corpses in the fields. So there was the first movie adaptation of this. It was the 1932 film White Zombie, starring Bela Lugosi, which introduced the term to the masses, focusing on a voodoo priest who uses magic to control people. So that Haitian voodoo word that we said earlier obviously then came to the word voodoo. Yeah. So I was like the links to that, which is quite interesting, I think. Then there was a shift to like the ghouls appearance, I suppose. So in the 1960s, George A. Romero, keep an eye out for this director, took the idea of the shambling undead, but added the traits of flesh-eating and infection in Night of the Living Dead. And interestingly, he didn't even call them zombies in the original film, he just called them ghouls. Ooh. So zombies wasn't like the word that was coined.
No, but we all really knew what they were.
We knew what they were, indeed.
So as we will be discussing later on in the episode a little bit, the origin of zombies might actually be pharmacological, and that basically is from like pharmaceutical origin. But that's because many researchers believe that bokos, so as we said a minute ago, that means a sorcerer, used a quote-unquote zombie powder. So this usually contained, bear with me on this, tetrodotoxin, which is basically a pufferfish venom, to induce a death-like coma, as well as datura, or a zombie cucumber, which must be a type of vegetable, or I'm imagining. Or actually, cucumbers are a fruit, aren't they? Because they have seeds on the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
But this basically is used to keep the victim in a state of delirium and amnesia after they were quote-unquote resurrected from their grave.
Blimey. It's pretty creepy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like the general origins of a zombie.
Yeah.
Because it goes a lot deeper. So obviously go and look it up if you're interested more, but that is kind of the general outline of the timeline of a zombie.
Yeah.
But I thought what would be interesting to sort of finish off our mystic matter section is sort of looking at why the zombie genre sort of keeps coming back, but in different forms.
It does, doesn't it?
In media, because it does.
Funnily enough, it's one of those undying genres.
Yes, it's undead. It does. It keeps coming back.
And it resurrects.
But every time it comes back,
decade or so.
it comes back differently. But there are reasons for this. So the zombie genre is uniquely cyclical, really, because it is the ultimate blank canvas for societal anxiety. So unlike vampires, who represent sort of sex and elitism, or werewolves, who sort of represent that primal rage that we've spoken about, zombies are sort of like a blank, faceless mass, if you like. So whenever the world feels like it's falling apart, the zombies generally return in some sort of form of media, but they mutate to sort of match what we are currently afraid of at the time, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, and that's what they're really brilliant at representing, because I think zombies are really quite scary, really scary.
Well, they are, yeah, because it's kind of the closest. I think people get more scared when something looks like themselves. So I think that's why zombies are so terrifying, because of that uncanny valley type feeling.
Yeah. And because they do represent fears.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they're more likely to be real monster out of them all.
Because a lot of people are afraid of dying. That's a lot of people's like main fear.
Yeah.
So then to know that you're going to die and actually not be really dead, I think makes the whole thing a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
But to get this started, we are going to go back to the 1960s and the 1970s. And that's because the fear at that time was the system. So we're talking like governmental wise. So usually the films at this time had like slow, shambling ghouls. So like in Night of the Living Dead. Yeah. And the context for this was usually built around the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, as well as the Cold War as well.
Yeah.
And so this is because people felt that the kind of social contract was breaking between countries and across the world. So horror then just wasn't monsters. It was the fact that the authorities, so the police and the military, were incompetent, and they were just as dangerous as the dead.
You can see that indeed. And we'll be returning to this film at some point, so keep your ears open for that. So next there was sort of the 1980s, so you had like the fear of like mindless consumption. So you'd usually have like zombies in like a shopping mall, or within sort of like a more public area that is more like, consumerist, I suppose. So like Dawn of the Dead. And this was because of the rise of mass consumerism and sort of the Reagan era capitalism that came around at the time. And zombies weren't just like these monsters that we had sort of seen them as just before. They were literally us.
Yeah.
So they went to the mall because that's just sort of what they did when they were alive. And it was sort of a satire on how we'd become mindless shoppers driven only by sort of the need to acquire things, really. And zombies obviously just wanting to acquire brains and, the bodies of people. It's sort of that represents, sort of the first film that sort of represents that consumerist version of a zombie.
Exactly. And then a nice little 20 years later, and actually the year that I was born, we're talking about the 2000s, everybody.
Oh, yes.
This is when we introduced the fear of kind of invisible threats. So we had more like fast, sprinting, viral type zombies. So we had like the Dawn of the Dead remake, as well as 28 Days Later. And this was obviously post 9/11 with the anxiety surrounding that as well. We had the SARS virus, as well as the threat of like bioterrorism.
Yeah.
And so that was because we stopped being afraid of the slow creep zombies and started fearing the sudden outbreak, which is obviously still prevalent nowadays because the fears haven't changed that much, they've just grown. But this fear shifted from the spiritual or social to biological, and it just meant that life could end in seconds because of a cough or a drop of blood.
It's kind of that moved from regular zombies coming out of the ground, out of the graves, to a more viral virus governmental cover-up type thing.
Like it could be your nan.
So exactly.
Make sure you go and check.
And it was kind of, I remember being really scared before of like thinking, what if someone gets ill, or what if I got ill and then I just turned into a zombie like within a day. It used to be like really, really creepy. Which then brought us on to the 2010s, which was sort of the fear of societal collapse. So you had like the sort of like survivalist zombie sort of trope. So you'd have like The Walking Dead and World War Z. Where like the 2008 financial crisis and political sort of polarization was sort of the context behind this version.
Which obviously still very prevalent fear nowadays.
They've just
gotten bigger and are like in addition to the 2000s ones.
And these stories weren't just sort of about zombies at all, really. They were actually about how humans treat each other when the lights go out. So the zombies sort of became like a background weather for a story about tribalism and rebuilding society from scratch. So kind of, again, it's that kind of collapse.
Especially
representing
because
that collapse of a society.
Once you get to probably even season 3 of The Walking Dead, it's not the zombies that are the threat anymore, it's people. It
started as the zombies, like everybody was against the zombies.
Season 1 and season 2, it starts as like the zombies.
Fearing these sort of creatures.
And people are just obviously very cautious. Then they get to the prison in season 3. And it's other people. And from there onwards, it's always other people.
And zombies are just sort of background.
They're just there.
If you like. Because they're just sort of a part of the world.
Exactly. And then that moves us into the 2020s. And this is obviously the
good
fear.
Old era we're in right now.
And this is the fear of the disconnect. So the tethered or like socially aware zombies. So in the films like Us, I know that they're still people, but just for the fact of hordes and that kind of like almost brain dead mindset, we're going to go with that example. As well as The Last of Us as well. This obviously came from the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as extreme wealth inequality. And so this meant that the zombies that we see actually have a voice or kind of a reason, so like the tethered in Us, and it represents the fear of the underclass rising up, or the idea that we are all interconnected by a fungus, so the social media or the internet, and we can't actually control it.
That's interesting, sort of seeing it, the internet and like social media is almost like a fungus in itself, an infection, because it's so easy to get sucked into it and wormed away, and we all become disconnected. And I think that the generations coming up, really, I think that we, us to our age, are sort of kind of like the last innocent generation where we were kind of born into a time where social media didn't exist. And these sort of able to become, connected people before that sort of became sort of into like sort of ingrained, sort of became part of our life. Instead of like being born into it. And it is worrying seeing a generation coming up that are
sad because like
probably going to be disconnected from each other.
People don't know how to be people anymore. People can't hold conversations. And obviously a lot of that is to do with modern medicine and being able to diagnose things a lot easier nowadays. But the second half of that is kind of kids being on their iPads from the minute that they're born, and them also playing things online instead of going outside, and all of these different things. And it just means that, like, I know, what was it we were talking about the other day? A lot of kids don't even know how to tell time on a clock anymore. Because they don't need it, because it's on their phones and it's on their iPads and their computers, and their watches, And,
I'm seeing kids now as well that are using like ChatGPT to like learn how to speak to people even.
Exactly.
That's like such a natural part of human life forever, and until now it's kind of like people don't know how to do anything for themselves anymore.
No.
It's It's sad, and
It
there should
is
be
really
so many
sad.
interventions, but that is a topic for another day, talking about artificial intelligence. Maybe we will, at some point, talking about the fears of, like, AI taking over the world.
Maybe that'll be the next zombie generation.
Perhaps.
Going into the 2030s.
Yeah.
Could be zombie AI films.
Yeah.
Maybe we should make that. If
Maybe.
anybody wants to make a zombie AI film, comment your filmmaking skills in
Portfolio.
the comment box below.
Yeah.
Let us know. Yeah,
We
leave
can
us
chat
your
about
portfolio
Terminator,
links.
actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that very much represents that. But
Or iRobot as well.
yeah,
Amazing film.
indeed,
Will Smith.
there's amazing AI films out there.
There is indeed. But where the zombies are obviously a bit more biological, that's not to say that they didn't have their supernatural origins as well, because you know
Indeed.
this is Bad Boo, and we fuck with the spooky shit.
We do indeed.
So let's try and find the spooky shit for our zombies, shall we? So come with us into our Isle of Fright.
So for this week's Isle of Fright, we thought we would talk about something that we actually mentioned a little while ago in a few episodes back, which is actually the sort of ancestral Viking undead creature known as the Draugr. So, or the Draugr. It depends how people want to say it, but I always have said Draugr. So it's Draugr or Draugr. But again, this is an undead creature. The Draugr, meaning again walker, is a Viking ancestor of the modern zombie, and it actually does have a link to the Isle of Wight.
Ooh.
Funnily enough, and it's very much rooted in the island's sort of violent history as a Viking stronghold in the past. And while these sort of Hollywood zombies are mindless and more viral in, you know, what we said about earlier, the Draugr was a physical, vengeful revenant that sort of retained the personality and the grudges that it had during its lifetime.
That would be me if I was a zombie. I'd hold all of my grudges, and I'd keep the like part of my brain that just hates people.
Yeah, I mean that is definitely Jodie.
Everything else can get consumed, but I would only go after the people that I'd hate.
Yeah.
That's it. You know who you are.
Guru. Me being one.
No, maybe. So let's get on to part one of this. So the Draugr, actually a physical ghost. So unlike a spiritual ghost, the Draugr is obviously an animated corpse. So they were described as, obviously bear with us because this is Viking mythology that we're talking about right now. So the pronunciations, from me having a very, very strong British accent, which I can't even say properly, and you obviously
Not
having
very strong.
your Isle of Wight twang to you, bear with us.
Yeah.
So usually they're described as the Hellblar, or Death Blue, or Narflol, which I think that's how you say it.
We're going with it.
Which is corpse pale. So they weren't just skeletons. They were bloated, heavy, and possessed superhuman strength. So sagas describe Draugrs as becoming incredibly heavy. So if a Draugr sat on a house, the roof would instantly collapse. If they crushed a person, it wasn't just a metaphor, they literally flattened their victims. They also could change their size, and they could also swim through solid earth and enter the dreams of the living to drive them insane. These guys sound like OP. I want to kind of be a Draugr. Yeah, I'm just saying.
They are OP.
Yeah, they can get in your dreams. They can swim through earth, so they're like worms. They can flatten people.
Yeah, that's the old Draugr.
It's like a Super Mario like boss fight.
There we go, Super Mario boss fight.
And then we get into the Isle of Wight connection.
Indeed. So the Isle of Wight obviously was a frequent target and occasional base for Viking raiders, most notably in 830 AD and 1006 AD. And this history left a deep mark on the island's folklore. So while the island's name actually comes from the Roman word vectis, the Old English word wit or white referred to a living being or creature or supernatural. So actually that is where the origin came from, and we spoke about this before briefly in another podcast episode that we did. And over time in local lore, this merged with the Norse idea of the Draugr. So a wight became the term for a shriveled undead dweller of the barrows. And it was actually, I believe, mentioned in Lord of the Rings. It's also mentioned in Skyrim as like the white or something like that.
Yeah.
But the W-I-H-T word.
Saruman the Stinky.
Saruman the Stinky. There you go. That is a great meme. If you don't know what it is, go and just type in Saruman the Stinky. And the island is actually covered in ancient burial mounds, so like those on Motterson Downs.
Which you would know about if you've seen our Demons episode.
Indeed. The local legends actually warn of beings that guard the gold inside these hills, which is a classic trait of the Draugr. And in Norse belief, a Draugr would actually stay in its mound, or, excuse the pronunciation, the Haugbui. That sounded crap, but you get the idea. Unless it felt its treasure was threatened or its life was unavenged. So, yeah, there's like an Isle of Wight connection to this, famous Draugr creature.
And there is a shit ton of burial mounds on the Isle of Wight.
There are.
We even accidentally stumbled across one the other day when we visited the Pepper Pot, didn't we?
We did.
For those of you that don't know, if you go to Ventnor in the Isle of Wight, you can visit something known as the Pepper Pot, which is one of the UK's oldest
lighthouses, isn't it?
Lighthouses.
Yeah.
That was built in the 1300s.
1300s.
And me and Sam trekked up it we trekked up a huge hill overlooking Black Gang Chine. So shout out again to Black Gang.
It's about 800 feet.
It is.
Hill.
And I was wearing Converse. Sam was wearing, what are they? Jordans? No, they're not Jordans.
Just Night Dunkers.
Night Dunkers. And I ended up slipping down the hill.
Yeah.
Fell flat on my back. Was covered in mud and had to bum shuffle down it on my gilet, so I didn't fall over again. But
we did
when
that
we got
all
to the
for
top,
you guys.
We did. But behind the Pepper Pot is actually a burial mound.
It is.
And there's a plaque up there, and you can go and read all about it, and definitely go and check it out in the summer. Just maybe not in the winter while it's misty and it's raining and everything's wet and muddy, and definitely wear like mountaineering shoes or trainers and not Converse.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Definitely.
Yeah. So then we have the kind of zombie origin from the Draugr in modern horror. So where the Draugr is actually a more kind of accurate blueprint for the modern zombie than the original Haitian, like, Vodou zombie. I'm saying Vodou because instead of voodoo, it's Vodou. So to me that sounds like Vodou.
Yeah.
But I might be saying it wrong. But obviously those type of zombies were more about mind control instead of actually raising up from the grave. Whereas in the sagas, anyone killed by a Draugr was kind of more likely to become one. So if a shepherd was found with his neck snapped by a Draugr, the community knew that they had to then behead the body immediately, or he would rise the next night. And also, you couldn't just kill a Draugr because it was already dead. So you had to provide a second death through specific rituals. Decapitation was the first one, so cutting off the head and placing it between the buttocks or at the feet. I didn't know that bit was in there.
The buttocks.
Then we have the corpse door. So carrying the body through a hole in the wall, which was then sealed so that the dead couldn't find their way back through the front door. And then the last one, which is obviously a classic for medieval techniques, is staking. So driving a stake through the body to pin it to the earth.
What a classic defensive technique there.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
That is kind of the origins of a Draugr, and because it's linked to the Isle of Wight, it belongs in our good old Isle of Wight section.
It does,
so
indeed.
Pretty cool that the Isle of Wight's got a connection to such a important and integral Norse creature.
But where we actually mentioned something about some good old zombie makeup earlier. Don't know if you remember when I mentioned that powder or not. Well, no, we're not talking about the type of powder that you take in a nightclub, but we're talking about the one that turns you into a zombie. So come with us as we talk a little bit more about that in our Boo or Bust. So, welcome to the Boo or Bust segment of today's zombie episode.
Hooray!
We actually couldn't find a Reddit story about a zombie, funnily enough.
Yeah, there were quite a few, but they were they were all fake, 100%.
Yeah. So we've actually gone and found a case for you.
Indeed.
So we can kind of decipher together, whether we think this was a real case of zombification, or if we think that this was maybe just from people being afraid of Haitian voodoo. So,
yes, indeed.
So today we're going to be talking about the case of Clairvius Narcisse. So for those of you that don't know, it is the most famous and scientifically debated instance of a quote-unquote real-life zombification in history. So, Clairvius Narcisse was declared dead at an American-run hospital in Haiti after suffering from severe respiratory issues and a fever in 1962. His death was verified by 2 doctors, and his sister had identified his body. He was then buried the following day in his home village.
In 1980, so 18 years later, a man approached Narcisse's sister in a village marketplace, introducing himself by a childhood nickname only the family knew. He claimed he had been conscious but paralysed during his death and burial, and that a boko, so the sorcerer, had dug him up, beaten him, and forced him to work on a sugar plantation as a zombie slave.
Ooh. So Narcisse actually claimed that he had only escaped after the plantation owner had died, and the other quote-unquote zombies regained enough clarity to wander away. Ethnobotanist Wade Davis investigated the case, proposing that Narcisse had been poisoned with the pufferfish venom that we spoke about earlier, tetrodotoxin, which induced a coma-like state indistinguishable from death. So he then argued that Narcisse was kept in a state of quote-unquote zombification through the regular administration of Draugr, which is the zombie cucumber, aka the hallucinogen that causes amnesia and delirium.
So that is the kind of overall case. So I thought we would just talk about that for a little bit on our Boo or Bust. So that is the general outline of the Clairvius Narcisse case that happened. So obviously we have this sort of classic trope of the zombie idea that he was, he died, he came back to life, but it was kind of through this sort of zombification, like, pharmaceutical type element, and that he had sort of been brought back to life through that, and that during his death it was like a coma-like sort of instance, if you like. So it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like there's an idea of obvious sort of fear of like the voodoo magic, kind of fear of that, but there's also the idea of obvious racial discrimination.
Yeah, of course.
That's going on. So there kind of could be, there's all sorts of things that people could have done, experiments, testing, and kind of only putting like a name on something that was perhaps more sinister behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's definitely strange that this man had appeared a bit later, and he was pretty much Narcisse, himself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's really weird. I don't know how you would feel, but could you imagine like your sibling passing away and then seeing them like nearly 20 years later in the middle of a marketplace?
Yeah.
I'd be like terrified.
It's freaky.
It is really, really freaky, and just doesn't really make a lot of sense. But you can actually find pictures of Mr. Narcisse online.
Yeah.
Because obviously this only happened in the 80s and stuff.
Yeah.
So
there are pictures taken.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure he's still living today, if I'm not wrong.
It's quite creepy, yeah.
It is very, very creepy indeed.
And I wonder, like, if it wasn't like a real life zombification thing, like, I wonder what actually was going on. Because obviously there's a lot of things that probably were going on behind the scenes.
I mean, if it's not like an actual zombification, then it just sounds kind of like trafficking.
It does.
Because obviously he's been drugged, he's then been buried, he's then been administered that particular drug over and over and over again.
Yeah.
He's then been like dug up, put somewhere else, forced into slavery.
Yeah.
So it's essentially trafficking and slavery, if not. But it's quite odd that it only happened to like that one man, though. I just wonder if there's any other instances of it.
Yeah. I mean,
I believe him. That's like the things that people are capable of. I 100% believe that somebody did that to him.
Yeah. There's so many things we don't know about science and all this stuff, even now. But I'd say it's probably a boo. I'd like to say that I agree that there was some element of something that we don't know about that happened to him that meant that he sort of came back to some degree. But it's kind of like on the fence, but I'm more like pointing towards the boo end of things.
It kind of reminds me of like in Victorian times when people would bury their loved ones because they would thought they were so sick that they were dead.
Yeah.
But obviously medicine wasn't as like progressive as it is.
No.
And so they would bury them and then they would tie a string to their finger, but the string was actually attached to a bell that was next to their tombstone. And if they were to wake up, they would just pull their finger, ring the bell, and then be dug up again. Because they weren't sure if someone was in a coma, or if they were actually dead, or if they were just asleep, or if they had only died temporarily. Because obviously people die for a few minutes, a couple of hours, a couple of days, and they come back, don't they?
Yeah.
Just because of the natural regime of things.
This is 18 years as well. That's the weird thing. It's
exactly.
like he's back after 18 years.
Yeah. But also you can keep somebody in a kind of like catatonic state like that if they have enough drugs to keep it going.
Yeah. So there's some,
it's just
being a zombie is
kind of baffling,
such
really.
a wide, like sort of general term.
Yeah.
So it's like, in that regard, you could count it as like a zombification of somebody.
Yeah. And this is the thing, is where his sister obviously identified his body.
Yeah.
And there were 2 different doctors that said he was dead.
Yeah.
Again, it was the 60s. Medicine wasn't obviously as progressive as it is now.
No.
But it was a lot better than it was in the Victorian time. So if people thought that somebody was dead, most likely they were dead.
Yes, they knew about pulses and checking for breathing and heart. Yeah.
My own thing that I would question is, now that we're in a more medical, like progressive time, is there nothing that's affected him long term? Like, you know how like long term drug abuse like affects like how your like just like your motor neuron functions or things like that.
Yeah.
I would question if there's anything like that now.
Yeah, same.
That like still affects him.
Yeah.
If he is alive, which I'm pretty sure that he is. But yeah, that would be my only question. But yeah, I believe him. I think it's a boo.
I believe it's a boo as well.
And speaking of boos, we're going to stay on the track of the living dead, per se. And we're going to get into our Silver Scream.
So as we do with our every Silver Scream, we are going to start with a movie quote for you to try and guess what the movie is. And obviously there's a lot of zombie films we've spoken about, but we have hinted towards a specific classic that we are going to be focusing on today. So the quote reads as follows:
"There's no more room in hell. The dead will walk the earth."
That's a great quote.
Yep. Which I don't
that out. I thought,
yeah,
that's got to be the one.
Don't think it only applies to the dead anymore, because there's a lot of people that
true,
should belong in hell. But
yes, true.
Straying away from that, the film we were talking about today is, of course, going back to the 60s, the 1968 Night of the Living Dead.
Classic.
Yes.
Absolute classic.
A genre-marking film.
It is, indeed.
So, for those of you that don't know, The Night of the Living Dead is a 1968 independent horror classic that basically redefined the image of the zombie as a flesh-eating, reanimated corpse, and served as a gritty social commentary on humanity's inability to cooperate during a crisis. So, we're going to give you a quick little plot summary, as we usually do for these things, and then we'll get into the kind of legacy of the film, as well as our own thoughts and opinions.
Indeed.
So, the film follows Barbara, who flees to a remote Pennsylvanian farmhouse after her brother is killed by a strange shambling man in a cemetery. She is joined by Ben, a calm, resourceful stranger who boards up the house to defend against an ever-growing horde of quote-unquote ghouls, because they were called ghouls in the film, they weren't called zombies, as we discussed earlier, that are now rising from the dead to eat the living. They soon discover that 5 other people are hiding in the cellar, including a stubborn Harry Cooper, his wife, and their sick daughter. The group spends the night in a state of high-tension conflict. We have Ben and Harry, who are fighting over whether to hide in the basement or defend the main floor of the house. Then there is a desperate attempt to get to a truck, but it ends in a fiery explosion. And we won't go further than that because I don't want to ruin the rest of the film.
Nope, indeed. So it's kind of your classic zombie film, if you like, because it is sort of the OG, if you will, which is why we picked it.
Yes.
So the influence of Night of the Living Dead in 1968 cannot be overstated. It is essentially the big bang for modern horror. And it moved the genre away from like gothic castles and rubber monsters, so like your classic universal horror monsters like Dracula and all this stuff, into a terrifyingly realistic version of our own world. It's at the time very much a contemporary reinterpretation, where it actually created the zombie rules. So before this, zombies were magic controlled sort of slaves from Haitian law, like we spoke about previously. But George Romero single-handedly established a blueprint that we all still use today. So this being that the dead rise with a hunger for human flesh. The condition is contagious, so spreading through like bites. And the only way to kill them is by destroying their brain, and that they are slow and weak individually, but unstoppable in a group.
Which is why we must stick together.
Together.
Carl. So then we get into the more social side of it. And obviously, we're in the 60s. It's a very racially discriminating time in the world. However, by casting a Mr. Dwayne Jones, who was actually a black man, as the heroic and capable lead in the film, Romero broke significant ground with this film. Obviously, at the time, black characters in horror were rarely the leads and were actually almost never the smartest person in the room, obviously because of stereotypes and discrimination. However, there was actually a gut-punching moment in the 1968 film revolving around the actual death of the character Ben, who is played by Dwayne in the film. And where the film had just come out a few months after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., the imagery of Ben's death in the film actually mirrored Martin Luther King Jr.'s death of being killed by law enforcement, as in the film he was killed by a white posse. And so this basically threw a fire at the mirrored real world violence of the era at the time.
It's really interesting, isn't it? How it represents that. And
yeah.
That there's like a, it was at the hands of a white group of people and not zombies themselves.
Yeah.
And it sort of represented that, even in this time, racism, still existed over zombies. It's just madness. And even in modern day times, like Sinners, the whole thing was like a racial thing to try and get them killed because they're all black.
Yeah.
By people that are members of certain bad groups.
Yeah.
And it was all a big ploy to get money out of them and to get them all killed by these vampires.
Yeah, exactly. And even with things like The Walking Dead, there's obviously not even subtlety in the racism. They have a character like Merle who represents that kind of hillbilly stereotype and is very much a racist and is completely against T-Dog, saying that he's black and calling him the N-word and all that type of stuff. Yeah. And that carries over for quite a few seasons. Yeah. So it is always going to show that men as a kind, the human kind, man itself, is its own worst enemy. Yeah. Essentially.
100%. Then after this came the birth of the guerrilla independent cinema, And the film was actually made on a tiny budget of $114,000, using a 35mm black and white film, local actors, and chocolate syrup for blood.
That was the brilliant thing about black and white film, is you could use anything because it didn't need colour.
Exactly.
It's all about texture.
It is. And it proved that you didn't need a Hollywood studio to create a global phenomenon, and it paved the way for future low-budget hits like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, and the Blair Witch Project. So it was proof that you could do it on such a tiny little budget. And it actually ended the era of happy endings. So we won't actually say what happened, but you can probably kind of guess. But Romero actually established that in modern horror, the good guy doesn't always win. So it's kind of has a bad ending, which breaks a massive stereotype of stories.
It does.
In cinema.
Entirely. But it also gives it a sense of real life, because obviously real life doesn't go the way that everybody plans a lot of the time.
No.
And then, actually, just to give a little fun fact about the distribution of the film. Due to a clerical error made by the distributor, the original theatrical prints didn't have a copyright notice on them. So this meant that anybody could show the movie, copy it, or even sell it without paying any royalties. And so this meant that while it cost Romero millions in lost profits, it ensured that the movie was everywhere. It aired constantly on late night TV, and was stocked in every single video store, which is why the quote-unquote Romero zombie became the global standard, because everybody had seen it.
Romero is such a name. When you think of zombie films, you think of Romero. It's like all the classic sort of the living dead, of the dead type movies.
Yeah.
Romero, he's the guy. But we thought we'd go into a little bit of trivia behind the scenes kind of stuff that we thought were interesting, just to finish off our Silver Scream section. So obviously making a masterpiece on a $114,000 budget required some very creative and often disgusting solutions.
Getting into the nitty gritty now.
Yeah, so here are the best behind the scenes secrets and trivia that we have gathered from the set of The Night of the Living Dead.
So because they couldn't afford any professional special effects, the crew used what they had. And so for the blood, as we mentioned, it was the Bosco chocolate syrup. And obviously in black and white, the thick, dark syrup looked more like real blood than bright red stage blood at the time. So this was the same trick that Alfred Hitchcock used for the shower scene in Psycho. Yeah,
because obviously red would probably appear much lighter, and it'd be hard to sort of tell. Yeah. Something really dark, you're like, oh, blood.
Exactly.
100%.
And then we also have the quote-unquote human flesh that the zombies eat during the truck explosion scene. It was actually a roasted ham donated by a local butcher, and they had also slathered it in chocolate syrup.
Roasted ham and chocolate.
Which
that'd have been quite a nice treat, really.
It does sound questionable, but
it sounds like it would go.
Hear me out.
Go.
I used to drink chocolate milkshake out of what I called ham straws. So I used to buy like the square packets of ham when I was little. My mum always used to get the square packets of ham, and I used to roll them up into tiny little straws because they tasted better like that, right? When they were rolled up. I used to roll them
up into straws.
But I'd always have a chocolate milkshake, and I thought, I'm thirsty at the same time. So I just plopped my little ham straw into my drink and slurp up some chalky milk with my rolled up ham. And also my older brother used to eat bourbons wrapped in ham. So like bourbon biscuits.
Wow.
Anyway, enough about my weird my weird little food niches. But yeah, they did the same thing. Don't think it's gross because they did the same thing on the film.
Yeah.
Wrapping an entire ham joint, which American like ham is the same as like gammon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
So honestly, gammon covered in chocolate syrup sounds gross, but I wouldn't mind. Sign me up for the next film.
Sign me up.
And then they had the actors who were playing the zombies actually joked that they didn't need makeup to look pale, because after eating the like cold syrup covered ham for hours, it actually made them feel genuinely nauseous.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And sugar and salt overload.
Yeah, and it all made them all feel really very sick.
And probably a weird taste as well.
Yeah.
But before George Romero actually became a horror icon, he actually worked as a cameraman and director on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So Romero actually wanted to cast Betty Amberlin, so Lady Amberlin from the show, as the lead Barbara, but Fred Rogers reportedly nixed the idea to protect her innocent, quote-unquote, image. But despite this, Fred Rogers actually saw the finished film and loved it and called it a lot of fun and a great achievement for his former protege. So, again, that's quite like an interesting, it's always good when there's like co-people that you know that kind of is a fan of what you're doing, and I think that's kind of like a typical story of like success, I think.
Yeah, also kind of proving people wrong at the same time.
Yeah.
Because not only has he done that with the stereotypes in the film, but he's done it himself.
It's like one of the most iconic parts of the film is the use of a black protagonist.
Yeah, exactly.
It's massive.
And speaking of said protagonist, the lead role of Ben was actually originally written as a crude, uneducated truck driver. However, when Dwayne Jones, who was obviously a highly educated professor and an intellect himself, when he was cast for the role, he refused to play the character as he had been written. So he polished the dialogue himself to make Ben more articulate and commanding. Romero actually added later on that he preferred Jones's version because it made the character's tragic ending even more poignant.
That's such a classic case of that. I mean, that happens quite often. Like the actors come and say, "I think it'd be better this way," and then the director ends up coming out saying, "Actually, that was a good move." And I think it's the best move because I think even socially speaking and racially speaking, it was more poignant. And I think that it then paved the way and said, look, people of all different walks of life can be just as demanding and intellectual and leading as anybody else can be.
Yep. It distinguishes all the stereotypes that were created by like slave owners in the period before.
Indeed.
Which is obviously really very important
Indeed.
For the world and modern media, of course, because it's going to be spread across the world.
Yeah. So the word zombie, like we said earlier, was never actually said in the movie. And throughout the film, the creatures are often referred to as ghouls or things. Romero didn't think that he was making a zombie film. He thought he was creating something entirely new. It was the fans and the critics who actually eventually labelled them as zombies, linking them back to the Haitian lore that we spoke about. So again, it was kind of like a fan thing of zombies. Yeah. And then that term was coined from there on out.
Then just gonna speak a little bit on the guerrilla locations. Shot at Evans City Cemetery in Pennsylvania, you can actually still visit the Nicholas Kramer headstone that Barbara clings onto during the first attack. And the house that was used was actually slated for demolition anyway. So this allowed the crew to actually smash the windows, board up the doors, and tear into the walls without worrying about any property damage. And then the house was burned down and bulldozed shortly after filming.
That's quite cool. That's quite a good use of saving a lot of money.
That's really smart. I'm going to try and do that for like our next film. I'm going to think of like, try and find something
find something that's about to be demolished, use it, and then they can, you don't really have to pay much probably at all for that.
Exactly. And actually, most of the zombies were actually just locals from Evans City who had actually volunteered for a free meal and a chance to be in a quote-unquote monster flick.
That's pretty cool. I'd be involved.
I would be involved
if
as
I saw
well.
that there's like a zombie thing happening or a monster movie and
I'd be like,
you get a free
that's
meal,
what I mean. And
be
like,
part of something like that.
Unless the free meal is the ham that they were talking about with the chocolate covered syrup.
Yeah, not on my camera, but...
No. But also, what they were saying a second ago about Dwayne Jones kind of interpreting his own character.
Yeah.
For, like, younger filmmakers out there, whether you're, like, 4 and you've got an iPad camera, or... Actually, no, you shouldn't be listening to this. But whether you're, like, just starting out or making YouTube videos or whatever it may be, script reads, if you have actors, are extremely important. As much as you've written something to be a specific way, make sure that your actors have their own interpretation and that they feel that it's right for them, because... as much as they may have not like had a huge amount of experience, when people read what you've written, they're going to interpret it their way, and that's usually how the audience is going to interpret it. So trust others' opinions. That is why art is collaborative.
Indeed.
That is the lesson
all a
for
collaborative
today.
Venture.
And also another lesson, just don't be racist.
Indeed.
That's the whole point of today's episode pretty much.
Yeah.
Don't be racist. Anyway, where we have obviously just spoken about the Night of the Living Dead, that is going to lead us into our Shivering Soundtrack segment for today.
So, the soundtrack of Night of the Living Dead is almost as famous as its visuals, but it wasn't actually composed for the film in a traditional sense, and it's one of the most successful uses of found music in cinema history. The classic music sounds from these sort of films, and especially this one. So we had the use of like library music in the film, and this is because the budget was so low that Romero actually couldn't afford a composer or an orchestra. So he should have got me.
Yeah, you should have gotten a sample to the official composer of The Country Gentlewomen, Read Between the Lines, and Life's Odyssey, and now Voyage of the Lost.
And Bad Boo. But instead, he actually used stock or library music from the Capitol Records High Q library. And Romero and producer Carl Hardman actually spent months listening to thousands of generic tracks with titles like Anticipation, Sudden Shock, or Eerie Heavy Echo, the costume of sound. They paid a small fee, or a needle drop fee, for each track that they used, and this means that the music you hear in the film was actually originally written for generic use, so in things like radio dramas, or cartoons like the Huckleberry Hound Show, or even soap operas. So it's kind of just generic sounds, little motifs.
Yeah.
They mash them all together to edit them together, which I think is pretty cool.
Some madness, some badness. Combination.
There we go.
Yes. And actually, though the music was pre-recorded, Romero and Hardman didn't just play it as is. They electronically augmented many of the tracks using echo, reverb, and pitch shifting to make them sound more quote-unquote alien and menacing.
Classic techniques.
And then Romero actually edited the film to the music. So this meant that ensuring the jarring orchestral stabs matched the ghouls' movements perfectly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a nice way of doing things, especially on a budget. You know, you've got all these different musical sounds and moments, and you think, oh, I'll just edit it so it's like feels like it was made the film. And I don't think you'd really know.
No, not at all.
By watching it, that it was kind of done that way, which is really cool. But the opening track that plays as the car drives into the cemetery is actually a piece titled Eerie Heavy Echo, which we said earlier, by a composer named Spencer Moore. And interestingly, some of the same tracks used in Night of the Living Dead appeared in other low-budget 1950s horror films, most notably The Hideous Sun Demon in 1959. So it's kind of got a lot of use out of the library music, but it was more, heavily used in this film in particular. And in 1999, co-writer John Russo actually released a 30th anniversary edition with a completely new synth heavy score by Scott Vladimir Lisina, and fans almost universally hated it, arguing that the original stock music was far more atmospheric and terrifying, which I'd agree.
Ooh.
I don't think things should be rescored.
No.
Because all of that was intended to be created with the art and the craft at the time, the
especially
budget.
when it was made, the film was made to the score.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like the score was made to the film and it can be interpreted in a different way or whatever.
But it's like going over
it was made to
painting,
the score. Yeah.
Isn't it? And just going and changing a few bits because they, didn't have that colour.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Exactly. It just
it's
doesn't...
It's like it was made with their love and the passion.
Don't try and fix something that ain't broken.
Exactly.
And actually for decades, the soundtrack was a complete mystery because the original cues weren't properly credited. So in 2018, Waxwork Records worked with the surviving crew to identify all of the original library tracks. They then released a definitive vinyl soundtrack that finally credited the quote-unquote unsung heroes of the final score. So this was obscure composers like Ib Glindman and William Luce, who actually had unknowingly created the sound of the modern zombie apocalypse.
That's really cool, isn't it?
It is really, really
cool.
It's
this is another one of those things that is like a complete accumulation of amazing creativity.
Yeah.
Low budget filmmaking. We spoke about it in Blair Witch.
Yeah.
With our found footage episode, so go and watch that. And all the others.
Yeah.
We go and watch all the other episodes. But particularly this is another example of the amazing things you can do on a budget, and there is no there's no point you'll get to where there's like a limitation.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, you kind come to the Isle of Wight. Amazing locations for
Yeah,
horror films. If you want to make
100%.
or any film, period films, horror films, adventure films. You know,
Whatever you want, we got it.
we got it here.
But it also, I think, stresses again how important it is to have a composition in a horror film.
Yeah.
Because again, you could have easily watched that film without any score, and you would have been like, yeah, the concept's pretty scary, but like, there's nothing really driving it to be like, oh my god, terrifying. But the fact that the director chose to change the film dependent on how the soundtrack was is actually really it's quite odd, actually, because a lot of people usually do it after the fact with the soundtrack and everything like that. So to actually completely change
The edit.
how the edit is like
The edit
made
wasn't
and-
as simple as like going onto like Premiere Pro
Yeah.
or like, you know,
No, they
Final
were
Cut or whatever
slicing
it is.
film and retaping it to other parts of it and joining up bits and
Yeah.
rescanning it and all those types of things. So it would have been quite a
real
hefty
fact.
process.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That is Night of the Living Dead. So highly recommend go and watch it, as we do with all of our films that we have on our
Exactly.
Silver Scream section of Bad Boo.
And what an important film to have influence towards, like, the fact of discrimination.
And
And
paved the way.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously it's such an important thing for people of colour to have their voice and have their moment
I remember.
in cinema and be given equal credit to other actors, because people are people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So everybody is just as talented as one another in different aspects. And nobody should be shut down because of the colour of their skin
There we go.
at all.
Yeah.
So if you're going to leave Bad Boo with the moral of today's story, don't be racist. If you're racist, don't listen to the podcast.
And be kind to everybody.
Exactly. And be
But
kind to
I
everybody.
did see.
And watch this film.
Yeah. I did see that Jordan Peele actually said that it was this film. Just thought I'd add this in. Jordan Peele actually said it was this film that sort of influenced, made him sort of think, like, well, there's a black man as the lead, and it made him feel like I could do that.
Yeah.
I can like kind of gave him the freedom to think I can make my own things now. You know, and he said it's the most influential film to him was this one.
Yeah. And that's because of
it
representation.
told him that he could do it. So without this film, you wouldn't have your Get Out and your Us and Nope and whatever his film 2026 is going to be, because nobody knows yet. But exciting times for that.
It is very, very exciting indeed, and it is also why representation is so important.
It is.
But straying away from that, we're actually going to go back to another real life case for today.
Indeed.
So we're just going to give a quick little trigger warning for this next section, because it's going to be a little bit graphic.
It is very graphic indeed.
But let's head on to our ghostly gossip. For today's ghostly gossip, again, just giving you a quick little trigger warning, it's going to be very, very graphic today, so just skip to the next little segment of the episode. Go on to our spooky spotlight if you don't want to hear about some pretty gnarly stuff.
Indeed.
But today we're going to be talking about the Miami zombie from 2012, aka the case of Rudy Eugene, often referred to as the Miami zombie. This is actually one of the most gruesome and misunderstood headlines of the early 2010s.
Yeah.
And is the incident that first put bath salts into the global vocabulary of horror. So, Rudy Eugene was a 31-year-old man who had been attending the Urban Beach Week in Miami. So he abandoned his car and walked naked for 3 miles across the MacArthur Causeway. He eventually encountered Ronald Popo, who was a 65-year-old homeless man. For nearly 18 minutes, Eugene brutally attacked Popo, stripping him and biting off most of his face, including his eyes, his nose, and his forehead. A passing cyclist alerted a police officer, who arrived to find Eugene growling at him with a piece of flesh in his mouth. When Eugene was forced to stop, the officer was actually forced to shoot him multiple times, eventually killing him.
Blimey.
I know.
That's
Tragic,
grim.
but also mental.
That's grim. That is really grim.
Very grim.
So, immediately following the attack, police and the media speculated that Eugene was under the influence of bath salts. So, these are synthetic cathinones like MDPV, This created a worldwide panic as experts claimed the drug could cause superhuman strength and psychotic cannibalism.
I remember when this broke out.
Yeah. When the official toxicology reports were released a month later, they found no bath salts, no LSD, no synthetic marijuana, and no other hard drugs in Eugene's system. So the only substance detected was marijuana. However, toxicologists noted that new synthetic drugs are created so quickly that it's possible that Eugene had taken a substance that labs weren't yet capable of testing for.
Ooh.
And Eugene actually did have a history of erratic behaviour and had previously been diagnosed with schizophrenia, leading many to believe that the zombie attack was as a result of a severe untreated mental health crisis rather than a specific drug incident.
Which is obviously really very devastating. To add on to this, against all odds, Ronald Popo, the person who survived the attack, he had actually lost 80% of his face and was left permanently blind.
It's crazy that he survived that.
He did survive. And he actually underwent multiple reconstructive surgeries and spent the rest of his life in a long-term care facility where he famously became a loved figure amongst the staff, often spending his time playing the guitar and listening to the Miami Heat.
That's pretty crazy. What a crazy story.
Yeah. Which I'm actually, like, obviously this doesn't make up for the fact of what he went through wasn't absolutely awful, but at least he got to live out the rest of his life in like a care facility, obviously being fed every day under a roof and in like a safe environment, hopefully. Don't really know what the care facilities are like in Miami, so I can't comment on that.
No.
But I'm sure it would have been better than being on the streets, because if he wasn't there in the first place, maybe he wouldn't have been attacked.
No, true.
However, if it was drugs that obviously pushed Rudy to do that, then the world is a terrifying place.
It is.
If it was schizophrenia or a undiagnosed mental illness, then I feel extremely sorry for that man, and somebody should have noticed sooner that he needed help. Yeah. Because he probably shouldn't have been around the public if
it's a very complicated scenario, isn't it?
Situation that he was in. But obviously, I guess we'll never know.
But nonetheless,
he was
gruesome.
Exactly.
Very gruesome.
Very, very gruesome indeed.
But talking of other gruesome stories that aren't actually real, thankfully.
Yes.
That leads us on to our spooky spotlight.
So, shifting the spotlight, you see what I did there?
I like it.
Shifting the spotlight onto some more fictional, reanimated, deceased tales.
Indeed.
We're going to go and give you some of our personal favourite zombie flicks.
And recommendations.
Yes. So, obviously, we are going to start with the world-renowned The Walking Dead.
Yes, the worldwide sensation.
Yes.
Is a cultural phenomenon.
It is indeed.
Cultural. Well, it's like massive, isn't it?
And
I know it sort of shifted downhill.
It did.
Towards the end. We still haven't got to the end.
I'd say maybe watch up to season...
We're on season, what, 9 now?
We're on season 9.
I think.
But I'd say maybe watch up to season 6.
Yeah.
Or 7. 6, 7.
Still carrying on the meme.
But around that time...
I mean, I'm still enjoying it now, but it's definitely like not as like gripping as it was.
No. The first 3 seasons are the best. Season 4 is still pretty good, but that's kind of where you start to lose me. Season 5 and season 6 were still good, but again, it just started to go downhill. So I'd say kind of watch her around season 6 because that's the best. But even if you don't like zombie flicks, just watch for Andrew Lincoln. He's a fucking amazing actor and doesn't get enough credit for anything.
But yet he has not been nominated for a single award for his Walking Dead work.
No, but he's so talented.
As far as I'm aware.
And you can usually find him at the National Theatre doing live performances in London on the South Bank.
Yeah.
So if you got time, pop down to London, go and have a quick little theatre trip.
Me and Jodie keep saying we want to go and see him.
We do really want to go and
in a
see
show.
him. Yeah.
Just because it's Andrew Lincoln, because he's just amazing.
He's a phenomenal actor and he's so talented.
So,
and he's
people say like...
Also just a really nice guy, apparently.
Yeah. But there's so much emotion that goes through his performances.
Yeah.
Like, especially in The Walking Dead. And I've seen him in a few other things, but especially in The Walking Dead, there's so much emotion behind everything he does. And it's so real that like he carries the show. And obviously there's a point where he leaves the show and you can kind of feel a massive gap.
You have a Rick-shaped hole in your heart.
You do. But definitely recommend it. There's so many, especially early on, so many like twists and turns, and there's so many characters you absolutely hate and hope they get it. So many characters you love that get it and you feel very sad. It's a
It's
roller
an
coaster.
emotional roller coaster.
It is
Yeah.
very much.
But if you liked Love Actually,
Yeah.
then you do know Andrew Lincoln because he fell in love with Keira Knightley in the film.
Yeah. He's the guy with the cards, isn't
With
he?
the cards at the front door.
The front door.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where she has to pretend that he's a carol singer, but he's not because he is actually in love with his best friend's wife.
Oh, brother.
But he gets into a lot more sticky situations in The Walking Dead, so go and watch that instead.
Probably a lot more worse than Love Actually.
Yes.
But yes, Walking
Moving
Dead
on.
is a recommendation. Next is 28 days later, or the 28 weeks later, 28
Yes.
years later. I haven't actually seen the last two, but I've seen 28 days later a long time ago.
And obviously we have Bone Temple, which just came out.
Yeah, but Cillian Murphy, it's like the boom movie for him, if you like. It was 28 days later was the one that sort of made him, put him into the spotlight, in our spooky spotlight. But it's the one that sort of made Cillian Murphy, showed everyone what a great actor he is. And, obviously now over the years, he's sort of top of the game actor, isn't he now? Like,
he is.
Cillian Murphy is like
So if Andrew Lincoln isn't
legendary.
your thing, Cillian Murphy must be. So go and watch this instead.
Two legendary actors
Yep.
in two different films. 28 Days Later very much delves into that idea of like a governmental cover-up,
Yes.
virus spreading thing. And it's got that very famous shot of him in his like hospital outfit, and like it's the streets of London dead, empty.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's freaky.
If you want to see some amazing post-apocalyptic filmmaking, go and watch this film.
It's Danny Boyle, I'm pretty sure, did that, who did
Yep.
Trainspotting, I'm pretty sure.
And if you haven't seen Trainspotting, go and watch that anyway.
Yeah.
Not a zombie film, but
No,
great.
but amazing.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor and the gang. But yeah, that is... Funny enough, Ewan McGregor was filming that at the same time as Star Wars.
He was, yes.
Obi-Wan and then this...
They're such like polar opposite
Yeah.
characters. But amazing performances either way. But yes, 28
days
days
later,
later,
definitely.
and the shooting techniques for it. We won't go into that now. Save it for another episode.
Yeah,
But
iPhones, wasn't it?
iPhones and
think it's always
camcorder for the
been
first one, wasn't it? Or was it
I
an
think it
iPhone
was
in
an
the first
iPhone
one?
5, I
Yeah.
think they used for the first one. But
iPhones for all the
regardless,
films, but
it was
such
another
an immersive
example
experience.
of low-budget filmmaking
Yes.
to sort of give this real gritty feel. And that's the whole purpose of using like a lower quality camera. I
Yeah.
suppose.
And then we have one of my personal favourites, actually one of mine and Sam's personal favourites,
Yeah.
World War Z,
Yeah.
which
It's based
if
on a novel.
Andrew
isn't it?
Lincoln and Cillian Murphy aren't your thing, and you prefer a bit of an American, go for Brad Pitt in World War Z.
Yes. Brad Pitt before the fall of Brad Pitt.
Yes.
But this is...
It's actually kind of during the fall, but this is the only good film that he came out with.
Yeah, but he's great in this.
He is
though. He's like
very good in
amazing.
this, yeah.
Not to say he hasn't been amazing in other films, because obviously there's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is like another one that he was really brilliant in, I
I
thought.
thought it was kind of around the same time though, wasn't it? Maybe a few years after.
It was like
2 years after or
I
something.
think it was 5 years after.
Was it?
I think, yeah.
Oh.
I might be wrong, but it's about around that time anyway. But World War Z,
If you want like modern zombie apocalypse,
where they are like mental, there's like hordes, and
Yeah.
when we say hordes, there's like a sea of zombies
Yeah.
in this.
this
It
is actually
disturbing.
disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say about 28 Days Later, and this one, the score for both. 28 Days Later, that classic, you hear it in all like the Britain's Got Talent final, like music, very much.
Oh really?
Amazing score, but also in World War Z, the opening theme and the ending theme and the theme partway through is actually done by my favourite band, which is Muse. So Matt
If you
Bellamy of
don't
Muse
know-
actually helped do the score for that.
Yeah. And if you
it's
don't know
incredible piece of music.
Muse, for all
Isolated
my
system.
ghosty girlies out there, if you think that you don't know Muse, you do know Muse because you've seen Twilight and
Supermassive Black Hole.
Supermassive Black Hole, the oh baby, don't you know I saw her, that one. Ooh, you set my soul alight. When they're playing baseball in Twilight, yeah, that's Muse. You do know them. If you don't know them, go and listen to that song because you need to know them because they're amazing.
Actually go and listen to all of their albums, especially that album.
Yes.
But this one is from their album The Second Law.
Yes, this is also this is like my second favorite piece of music by them is
Yeah.
the World War Z. Like
It's what it gives you goosebumps
music.
when you hear it. Like
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. Then it goes into like
yeah,
has like electronic stuff and builds, and then it
Wait, no,
ends
I
with like
was-
the piano. Yeah.
I was going to do the Exorcist one. for a
Oh, The
second,
Exorcist.
but
That's
not
Mike Oldfield. We actually did talk about that in the Demons
We
episode.
did.
But World
No.
War Z,
it. But when the drums come
Great
in on
story.
this,
It's
and it's
tense.
like dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
Dum. Oh, it's so good.
It's-
Definitely go and listen to just the score if you're not going
Yeah.
to watch the film.
but this is a tense movie.
Yeah.
very, very tense.
Very tense. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Yeah, and it's a family-based film, so it's like,
is.
you know, it kind of, it's a small set of people, but like they're split apart, and then sort of he has to go and do his duty, come out of like retirement almost as like a
working for the US government,
working for the government and like as a soldier and all this stuff.
But it's the only way to save his family,
It's the only way
so he has to.
Protect his family is because go and do that.
But this was one of those first, this was one of the first zombie films where it actually made me think, shit, what would I do in that situation?
This freaked me out.
It really sits with you.
The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So it came around at similar times.
Yeah, they did.
And then there was actually a World War Z game that came out in 2020 or something. I don't know, might be wrong. But I played that. That's very fun. I enjoyed that game.
I would love to play that.
So yeah, it's definitely a good fun game. But the film, very cool, very, very cool indeed. So World War Z, recommend that 100%.
Then we have a absolute British
icon, banger,
a classic,
Shaun of the Dead.
Yes.
Which stars our good friend Simon Pegg, who I actually saw in real life last year at a Coldplay concert because he played the tambourine, which was very, very funny. But good old Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and it's Edgar Wright directing it. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Especially if you're British, what are you doing? Shaun of the Dead, again, it plays on the tropes of life being mundane, boring, but it's a like a horror comedy, and it actually invented the zombie subgenre called a zomcom. So it's a zombie romantic rom-com, but I think people just call it a zomcom
because
it's like a rom-com but with zombies.
Yes.
So it's so funny.
It's so funny, and I think for Americans as well, it's such a good look into what British day-to-day life is
it's
like.
It's actually like,
and yeah, it's just absolutely brilliant. It's so funny, even though the humour is obviously not like memes and shit that people go on about nowadays.
It's better.
It is just classic personable humour. It's so funny. It's so tasteful as well.
Tasteful.
And
I'll have
obviously
to watch it. I think it's on Netflix.
It's got the elements of family in it. There are quite harrowing moments.
It's definitely scary and sad moments.
And it's got like the great relationship between Simon Pegg and I've forgotten the other bloke's name.
Nick Frost.
I feel really bad. Nick Frost.
The duo.
Yeah, who are obviously like they kill cinema wherever they go because they are just so funny when they're together. But yeah, it's a must watch.
Shaun of the Dead, must watch. It's a absolute classic.
Yeah, and then going on to the other side of the world, we have some Korean favourites for you. The first one we're going to talk about is Train to Busan.
I haven't actually seen this one.
I have seen it. Saw it like a few years after it came out, and it is brilliant. There's
I know there's like a Korean era of zombie stuff, wasn't there? Like a series.
The series,
there's like a
which
series
is
of some
called
sort.
All of Us Are Dead.
Yeah, that's the one.
Which is also amazing.
Is it based in a school, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
It's like I seem to.
Yeah, I've only seen clips of that. I haven't actually seen the whole thing yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, Train to Busan is absolutely amazing. It's about it's about a man and his daughter, who, for those of you that don't know, Busan is like a separate area. It's more towards like the countryside of Korea.
Yeah.
To kind of get away from the city. And there is a particular scene about the zombie outbreak on a train platform. And it's really, really very good.
Yeah.
And again, that was another film that made me think, if I was on holiday and there was a zombie outbreak, what would I do?
What would I do?
I say on holiday because obviously I'm not from Korea. We're not in Korea. We're on the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
So very different. But another one I want to talk about is actually a film called #Alive.
Yeah.
This was made in 2020. Has a Rotten Tomato score of 88%.
It's not bad.
So it's pretty up there.
Yeah.
And it is just one of those like shorter films. It's quite easy to digest. But like zombie-wise, the zombies are actually like, again, kind of Shaun of the Dead-y, where they're like real characters that you see during the day and then you see them as zombies afterwards.
Yeah.
But this time they're stuck in an apartment block.
Oh, right.
In Korea.
Yeah.
And it's different people coming together to try and save each other.
Yeah.
Like someone has to lure these zombies out to try and get somebody out of their apartment.
Yeah.
And it's just really very smart.
That's using a single location.
And it kind of focuses on younger characters, like people in their 20s.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that's your vibe, then go and watch that as well.
That's cool.
Obviously, don't dub the film. Turn subtitles on. learn how to read.
Yeah.
Dubbing ruins it.
Never ever watch anything dubbed.
Yeah,
because
please don't dub things.
It's not the actors you're watching
No.
acting then.
Obviously, if you're visually impaired, then dub the film.
Yeah, I'm not saying that
but
you mustn't.
If you have near enough good vision, or if you wear glasses and you can see with your glasses, just subtitle the film, please, and watch it in the language that it was created in, because otherwise it would have been made in the other language.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just such an amazing film. And yeah, the acting in it is just mwah.
I'd need to watch some of these sort of Korean ones, and other ones that you said about that.
I shall show. Yes.
And just thought we'd finish it off with a set of games, actually, is the sort of Resident Evil games. And there's obviously a lot of those now.
Mm-hmm.
And Resident Evil 9 actually comes out this month, February, as we're filming right now. But they kind of, it is zombies, but it is kind of isn't. But it's like, again, they're very, very, they're just cool games. They're fun. Especially like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8. But particularly 7 is very scary. But it all plays with that sort of undeadness and that sort of virus, and it's kind of utilising that. So I won't say much about it because it's such a vast, franchise, but definitely worth it indeed if you enjoy your games.
Yes, and just to give a nod to it as well, how can we go anywhere without mentioning Black Ops Zombies?
Oh my god.
Yeah, we have to.
All of the zombies.
All
the
of the
zombies, particularly in Black Ops. You got what's it? It's a bit Kino de Totem. That was one I remember.
Triple kill.
Moon. And there's all these other ones. I really struggle to remember, but I remember playing it on Black Ops 2, particularly with the Transit. That's one like the fiery place. It's like such a basic map. There's a giant, and then obviously my favourite zombies was Black Ops 3, because you had like Shadows of Evil.
That is the best one, Black Ops 3.
Dies and Draugr.
I always played
Zetsubo no Shima.
in the like the theatre one. It was like a stage.
I think that's Shadows of
sure.
Evil.
Yeah.
The one that's like based in like the 20s.
I think so. I can't remember.
It's like got the burlesque in it, and
Yes, I think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
there must be that one. That's one of my favourite maps from Black Ops 3.
Yeah, that was the one that I used to play a lot with.
And then they
my
brought
brother.
out Black Ops Origin, like Zombie Chronicles. So you had like the maps like Origins in there, which is classic. But I had like all the classics, so that's why I think Black Ops 3 has the best zombies. But yes, very, very good nod to that indeed.
And just one more zombie game before we go. This is a little shout out to Callum as well as my nephew Aiden, because we used to play this when we were very, very little. I'm not very, very little. I'm not talking kids. I'm talking like early teens.
Yeah.
But Dead Island.
Yes.
Dead Island was an absolute zombie classic. You're stuck in Bondi in Australia.
Yeah.
And you're in a resort basically, and you're running around the island, trying to fend yourself off from zombies and flip flops.
Epic.
But yeah,
I remember seeing some trailers
it's a
coming
really
for that
very
when I
good
was
film.
younger.
Very good film? No, very good game.
Yeah.
Very good game.
We could go on. There's so many.
We could. There's so much, and zombies are that genre that is always gonna come back,
Always
just
be
like they do.
To bite you on the arse or bite you on the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
like.
And one day, it wouldn't surprise me if the world is taken over by them. But you've watched enough to know how to prepare yourself.
But yeah, you've heard it from us. Survival tips. Listen to this podcast, and you will be fine.
Yes.
Resort to Bad Boo. If you think apocalypse starts, Bad Boo.
Yeah.
We know who to get involved with now.
Exactly. And if you want to hear some of our survivalist techniques, then maybe go over and join us on Patreon, and we can do a live stream about that one day if you want us to.
Actually, yes, good
We
idea.
can talk you through our plans for a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Maybe what weapons we'd prefer to use.
Yeah.
Techniques of protecting ourselves, where we get food from, the whole plan in general, because we are sane, normal people who think about this type of stuff day to day and plan
You
it
are not normal
just in
if you
case
don't
it
think
happens.
about zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there we go.
We're just prepared.
But unfortunately, that leads us on to the end of the episode today. So, if you have fought your way through tonight's apocalypse of an episode, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for Bad Boo updates and new episodes, as there's plenty more Fright flicks and folklore to come.
You can also haunt us on socials at Bad Boo Productions, where you can interact and leave suggestions for future episodes or contribute through polls and posts.
If you're after more creepy content, then our Patreon is live. So if you'd like to hear and even see more of us, then head over there for exclusive Boo Crew videos, stories and live streams.
That's all from us for this flesh-eating episode today. We've been your haunted hosts, Sam and Jodie, unraveling the dark so that you don't have to. And until next time, keep your lights on, your doors locked, your armoury loaded. If you leave, send us a postcard. And remember, the shadows are never